Hello everyone, and this is preview what we're gonna reach till the end of this tutorial video. And we will be able to cut such tree, and it will be changed using world position offset. We will change material for tree and make it dynamic to look like this. So let's start. Hello everyone, this is a new tutorial series dedicated to tree chopping, and I hope that we will finish with that theme on 1 or 3 videos, depending on what I will decide to do. And as in previous videos, it will be an ongoing system. I've created such system earlier, but now I'm gonna create a new one, and I may have some mistakes, may have some not very efficient solutions, so I hope you will be able to modify it to fit your needs. First thing that we need to do, we need to have something that we're gonna use to chop that tree. In my case, I'm having an axe, and I'm not gonna tell you how to equip it or attack with it with animation, because it's not a part of such tutorial. Well, you have some instrument that you're gonna use to chop a tree, and first let's add some uh, collision. So let's add a box collision. Well, now let's change its extents and make it, for example, 32 is too big, 16 is too big, like 10, 10, 10, 5, and 15. And let's move it somewhere here. So as, as soon as our axe will hit a tree with this box, then tree will receive some damage. Well, but by default we cannot hit a tree with this box because we can have such situation when we will just move with an axe and overlap a tree somehow. So by default let's make a collision preset for that box custom, and collision enable by default is gonna be no collision, and we will enable it only at some particular time of an animation. And by default, this box should ignore everything except some collision on our tree. Let it be, I'm not sure, let it be world static. So we're gonna overlap every world static object. Compile and save. Now let's open a tree. I have a meshes of tree, and I'm gonna create a blueprint here right now. So let's create a new, I'm gonna create a new folder and call it tree cutting. Well, here I'm gonna create a new actor and call it BP3. Well, this actor gonna have a static mesh of a tree. For now, it will be enough. Now let's select a static mesh. I'm gonna use, I think, this one. So this is gonna be my tree. Well, now let's add some collision here, I think, because I wanted to overlap not with a static mesh by itself. Let's add some box collision here. Move it somewhere where a hit will be required. Well, I'm gonna increase its extents from 32 on Z to 100 maybe. Yeah, and decrease it on X and Y from 32 to 24 and maybe 20 and 20. Well, and I'm gonna call it tree cutting box. Also, let's make a collision preset custom, make it world static, and ignore everything except world static. Now we will be able to handle some overlaps during overlapping of our box of box on our axe with box on our tree. Well, but a box on our axe is disabled by default, so we have to enable it. Well, it's a good question to ask when we should enable this box. So I'm gonna enable it on a particular frame of an animation. So I'm gonna open my animation blueprint for an axe. ABP, it's ABP character. I'm gonna search for my axe animation, and I have two attack animation. One is from up to down animation, and one is normal attack animation. Here is how it looks like. Well, and we need to add some anim notify. I already have one, so let's select a place when we want to start enabling an attack of our axe. Okay, let it be this place. So right click here, add notify, new notify, and name it somehow hit start, or let's call it enable hit collision. Okay, and for example, here I don't want it to be able to collide. And let's create a new notify and call it disable hit collision. Well, save, open animation blueprint, open event graph, and here we can handle this notify. So let's handle enable notify collision, enable hit collision notify, and disable hit collision notify. Well, at this place we have to tell our axe somehow that its collision should be disabled. So let's open axe and if you have a parent, for example, you have just BP axe and child likes BP stone axe and so on, or BP weapon, you should do it in the parent class. I'm gonna do it in BP stone axe because in future I'm gonna recreate the system for my damage system. So here let's create a function and let's call it enable hit collision. And it will have one input called enable of type boolean. Well, here we're gonna get this box and set collision enabled and select on this boolean. Select, and if it is true, then we're gonna have a query only collision. If false, we're gonna have no collision. Compile and save. Now we have to call this function from somewhere. Well, from animation blueprint, we're gonna access our instrument somehow. Well, it depends on your architecture and how you have implemented your animations for your instruments. By default, you can get your character. I think that if you have an animation blueprint, then you have a reference to your character. So you can get a character here like this, and okay, get character, or how you have named property, a variable, or how it is called here, variable. You can get character and call some function like enable axe collision. Well, I think that I must have no, I don't have, so I'm gonna get a character and call some function. Well, we have to create such function. Let's open a character and let's create the same function here. Let's call it enable, for example, weapon hit collision, and an input will be enable. Well, from this place we're gonna somehow get our axe. For that case, I'm having an equipment stored in separate component. In your case, maybe you want to get just attached weapon or attached instrument, or you have a variable reference to the sector, so it's on your choice how you gonna get it. I'm gonna get an equipment component and get in hand item. So now I have it of type actor and I'm gonna cast it to BP stone axe. And right after that, I'm gonna call a function that we've created in stone axe called enable collision. Where is it? It's called enable hit collision. So we're gonna call enable hit collision. And the input will be this one enable. Compile and save. Back to animation blueprint and let's call this function. So let's call enable hit collision on our character. When enable hit collision notify was handled. And we're gonna do the same but with false flag on disable hit collision. Like this. Compile and save. Well, now let's open StoneX and add some event for our box. Let's select this box that we've created. And here we have on component begin overlap and end overlap. Let's add, we need only begin overlap. Now, by the way, we can overlap with different actors and with different components. We don't know who has been hit. We may hit a stone, but it is not choppable. So let's open a place where we have created our tree, where it is, and let's create a new blueprint interface. And let's call it BPI choppable, for example. And let's open it up. And let's call this function like chop, for example, and an input will be an axe. No, I don't think that tree should know about axe. And an input will be damage of type float. And what else should we know? I think that nothing. And we should return an output. Or not, maybe not. Well, that's enough. Now let's implement this interface to our tree. Let's open BP3 class settings and implement this interface. BPI choppable, compile and save. Well, now let's implement function of an interface. Open your interface category here and you will find chop function here. Here's our chop function and let's just for now print something like tree hit. And let's open BP StoneX now. Now we don't need to check whether we hit it one tree or another, we can just get other actor and call chop. And damage, well, we can have a variable, something like damage of type float, and plug it here. Or you may have a data table where you will store everything, and for tutorial reasons I'm gonna add it here, and by default let damage be something like 15. Now, if an actor implements this interface with this function, it will receive such function. If not, then nothing will happen. Okay, but we have another problem. We may have another problem. We should disable this collision as soon as something was chopped. So, let's check if actor implements interface, and if it is implements choppable, if true, then we're gonna chop. And right after this event acquired, then we're gonna disable collision on our box. We're gonna call a function enable hit collision with false flag. Well, now let's test it out. And this is just static mesh. Let me add a tree here, start a game, and equip my axe. Well, I have a little problem. I think that's with my other collisions on my axe. And I can see this tree. By the way, let me move it on this small grassland right in the middle, like this. Here it is. Let me equip an axe again. Oh, okay. No physics collision. No physics collision. no physics collision, and weapon mesh collision enabled. No collision. That's a problem on my side, so you don't have to change anything. No collision, no collision, query only, query only, and query only. Okay. It's very strange behavior. Well, I finally fixed my issue. It was on my site, on my parent class of my axe, and now let's go and hit a tree. And we should see some print string. But by the way, we don't. So this event shop is not called here. Well, let's find out why this happens, and let's open stone axe at first. And here is our box collision. Well, during tests I've disabled overlapping of world static, and now let's try it again. Well, still nothing. Okay, let's find out if enable hit collision is even called. So let's set a breakpoint here and test it again. Okay, it is called with enable true, so collision is enabled at this place. Well, and let's remove a breakpoint from here. Okay, so collision is enabled at this place for our box. And box is set it to overlap every world static, and its type is gonna be also world static, not world dynamic. Because on tree we have set it our tree cutting box to overlap only world statics. So now let's test it again. And now we can see tree hit here. Well, so this event is called, and now we have to open our tree and we have to deal some damage to our tree. So let's add few variables, and first is gonna be max health. And it's gonna be type of float. Next variable is gonna be health. And it's also gonna be type of float. Well, what we're gonna do here, we're gonna get current health and subtract a damage. Well, and then set a new health. Also, this value should be clamped. So let's clamp it between 0 and max health. And plug it here. Okay, now our tree is able to receive some damage. Also, I think that our tree should be changed a little bit, so that we may see some damage that it receives. So I wanna scale it a little bit at this part when it receives a hit. So to do that, we're gonna change material for our tree. So let's select tree, and for my trunk I have a separate material called a my trunk. Let's open it. Okay, it's just material instance, and let's open a parent material. Here it is. So we're gonna change the world position offset so that our tree trunk gonna scale inside. but this parent material is used a lot, so I'm gonna add a switch, static switch parameter, and call it VPO enabled, and plug it here, and by default it is false. Well, and let's just put some constant into false. Well, what we're gonna do next? We're gonna have some parameter, or even not a parameter, just a constant value. No, I think that parameter is fine, and it has to be a vector. So it's gonna be a constant 3 vector here, and let's convert it to parameter, and let's make it look something like cutting pose. Well, oops, and we have to have one more parameter and call it and it should be scalar, and let's call it radius, and by default let it be something like 128. Now we also have to get absolute well world position, like this. Now we're gonna make a sphere mask, and this one goes into A, this one goes into B, and this one goes into radius, and hardness I'm gonna decrease it to 1. Now the current, okay, and let's plug it here just for now so that we will not have a compilation errors. And well, let's see how sphere mask looks like. It looks like something like this, and on plane it looks like, where is the plane, like this. So increasing and decreasing radius will decrease or increase the radius, and hardness will increase or decrease sharpness of an edges. So for example, on 100 of hardness it will look like this. I want to set it even on 0.5. Also, let's test it out on a real tree. So let's select a tree. Here in the content browser I'm using beech tree 03 and click here. So white part is gonna be a part that's gonna be changed. So I'm gonna change cutting pose a little bit in material instance, but for now let's select it. Let's find out and edit that value. So I'm gonna change B, I'm gonna change that value, so let's type something like 100, 150. Okay, 150 is fine for now. Well, by the way, well, we have, I think that maybe we have a little bit big location, so I'm gonna decrease the radius. 64 is too small, 70, 80, and move it maybe on X value, -10, -20. So you should find out a correct position and a radius you want to use. Now let's subtract from a pixel world position of a hit, like this. Then we're gonna multiply it on this sphere mask, the same as if we have done a lerp, and we gonna plug it into true, but we gonna reverse this, so we're gonna use 1 minus and plug it into true value. Well, how it's gonna look like now? Let's stop previewing node, and well, where is it? Maybe if I have to increase. Okay, and let's enable it. And here's how it looks like. Quality of the thing depends on the quality of your mesh, how much triangles you have. Maybe I will also increase a radius. And we have to change a strength somehow. So here we have to add a new scalar value. and call it strength. By default it's gonna be 0, and let's multiply it like this and plug it here into a true. Well, on 0 it looks like this, and on 1 it looks like this. And I'm not sure, maybe we should clamp it between 0.5, 0.6, 0.7. Well, let it be 0, let it be 1 for now. And let's make default value false. Now, save, apply. Also, I would like to change a color on a place where I have cut it a tree. So let's make a new color. It's gonna be constant 3 vector, and I want something like, maybe like this. I'm not sure. And it's gonna be part of our base color. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna lerp between this color and a base color, and an alpha is gonna be our sphere mask, and it's gonna go into base color. Well, that's not what I expected to see, to be honest. Lerp between A and B with such alpha. Okay, 1 minus will not. Oh, maybe it will. So let's add 1 minus, plug it into alpha, and here is how it looks like. So I think that color is should be a little bit darker, something like this. Well, uh, also, what we're gonna do now, let's let's navigate where this material is located and create a new material instance, and let's call it my tree trunk. Let's open it up and select. Okay, is that mine parameter? Yes, it's mine. Let's make world position offset enabled, and where is the progress? How we've called it? We've called it strength. Let's make strength 0 by default, and also we should multiply strength on this 1 minus, so tree should not be colorized by default, it should be colorized, okay, not 1 minus, we should multiply this one here, then 1 minus, and then plug it here. So when strength is gonna be 1, it's gonna be colorized, and on 0 it's gonna be 0. Well, here we have this material instance, and strength is 0 by default. Now let's open our BP3. Let's open our BP3, and after every hit we're gonna change this value of a progress. So, but for it we have to be able to change material. So let's open a construction script, and here let's get our static mesh and make our material dynamic. So let's create a dynamic material instance, and also let's change material here. So let's select mi trunk, that one that we just created. And we're gonna select this material here in source material, mi trunk. Well, compile, save, and promote this to a variable. Compile, save. Well, now on event shop, we're gonna count a progress. So progress is gonna be just health, this one divided by max health, and we will receive a progress between 0 and 1. Well, in this is gonna be our progress. We're gonna get our trunk material and set scalar parameter value. Well, value is gonna be this progress, and parameter name is gonna be the same as we've called it here, strengths, uppercase, from capitalized letter I mean. So strengths, compile, save, and let's open it up. Well, I hope that it will work now. So let's navigate to tree. Okay, it looks like Unreal decided to decrease the quality of everything here, but it should work. Well, it should, but it doesn't. It should, but it doesn't. And what is the problem here? Let's add breakpoint. Or I think that I should know because I think that we have 0 damage. Maybe not. No. On overlap, where pass any damage. Okay, so let's open tree and debug what happens. Start it again. Equip an axe. And hit a tree. Okay, health is 0. Oh, correct. Well, we should set the default value for max health and health. Let it be 100 and health is default 100. Don't know how I have missed it. Save, compile, start it again. And play it. Remove breakpoint. Maybe we shouldn't remove a breakpoint. For now, strengths and breakpoint. Did I select the correct? Okay, I have selected the wrong material instance, by the way. My material instance should be called mi tree trunk and not mi trunk. So plug it here and plug it here. Unfortunately, I've missed a little bit with naming, and maybe now it should work. Okay, health is 85 now. Great, continue. Doesn't look like it is changed. Well, also we have some artifacts at the bottom. So we're getting our trunk material. It should be set to dynamic material instance. Here we're getting some cutting pose, and well, we should also convert, I think, well, what's wrong with texture here? Um, Even with world position offset disabled, it doesn't work. So let's set the base color to default. Let's disconnect world position. Okay, I think that's some Unreal problem because even without any changes, it draws it in incorrect way. So I'm gonna connect everything back. So the problem seems to be with my tree. Well, but anyway, looks like strengths doesn't change anything, but it should. But it should, and it doesn't. I think that I'm missing something very simple. Okay, we're clamping health between 0 and max health. Setting new health is correct. Max health. Okay, health divided by max health, and it's strength. Strength. And WPO is enabled. Yes, VPO is enabled by default. Radius is 100. Okay, the problem, I think that the problem is in our cutting pose, because uh, it works in preview because it has a 0, 0 location, but we should convert it from a relative location to world location. Well, how is it working? I'm not sure. Uh, transform position, maybe. Yes, we should transform from local space to absolute space and plug it here and here. Hope it will work now. And let's test it. Okay, now it works, but what happened? It works in an opposite way. It works in an opposite way. So, oh, of course. That happened because our progress is going down from 0 to, oh, from 1 to 0 and not from 0 to 1. So let's, after that we have to subtract, and let's make it 1 no, we don't have 1 minus, so let's make it subtract, and we're gonna subtract this progress from 1 and plug it here into our value. Compile, save, and now it should work. Well, that's how it looks like, and I think that's it for this video. Also, I think that I will move this part of a tree a little bit lower because it is too high, and maybe change this color. So thanks for watching, hope it will help someone.